Hey guys, it's a new week and I'm back with a new episode of Connect Beyond, a series looking to highlight teachers who are going the extra mile to connect with their students outside of a traditional educational environment. I'm your host, Amaya, Miss Illinois Collegiate America, and this week I had the pleasure of talking with extreme teacher Diamond Emerald. She is a teacher, motivational speaker, special education provider, and college professor who just finished writing her book called Teach Like a Diamond, Hybrid Teaching for Today's Teacher. Let's hear what she has to say. I'm so happy to have you on this series. We have actually never met in person, but just from our short conversation, I can tell you are a teacher who is dedicated to her students and just passionate about your craft. So tell me a little bit about yourself, your journey in education, and we'll hop into some more questions.
My name is Diamond Emerald Skinner, and I never wanted to be a teacher. I graduated from high school in Phoenix, Arizona. Then I went to Washington University in St. Louis, Missouri. I double majored in African American Studies and Theater, and I created the minor of Swahili. And then I went to get my first master's at NYU in Performance Studies. While I was there, I was working as a student teacher in Brooklyn, and that's really where my love of teaching came to life, and it really was undeniable. So right after I got my first master's in Performance Studies that summer, I started the Teaching Fellows program and started teaching in summer school. And now I've been there for 8 years, and I teach teachers. After I got my second degree in education, I'm a special educator on the Upper West Side. I absolutely love it. And I think it's just a blessing and privilege to realize that this is what I was put on this earth to do, to teach and motivate teachers through my work with my students.
Wow, so many things stick out to me about your story. I think the first thing is that you weren't even thinking about teaching, but it's truly like your calling and something that you were led to. And the second thing is that you didn't force, your musical theater career or being in the performing arts, but you were just like led by purpose. And I really, really love that. And just by you understanding, you know what, I know I enjoy this, but this is what I really feel like I should be doing, and this is what I'm good at. It's really, really cool. Talk to me about your time in the New York Teaching Fellows program and what you've kind of learned in the encounters that you had through that.
The Teaching Fellows was like a fast track. They dropped us into summer school. We would be teaching in the morning. I would be eating lunch on the subway. I would get to my afternoon class where they taught us, and then we had graduate school classes like 2 or 3 times a week. One of the main components of that teacher prep program is practicing. And we have to get up in front of other teachers and teacher candidates. We're all just like adults trying to figure out life. And now we're pretending to be teachers and students in front of each other. And that's the most awkward part of the training for a lot of people. But I think that's how I thrived, because I was used to pretending to be someone, on a stage and playing a role. During a practice session, one of the staff members saw me, came and talked to me, and then kept me in mind for 2 years later. The person who was actually training me, she actually handed my resume to her principal, and that's where I've been for 8 years. So when I talk to teachers about how to get through this process, I talk about how important the practice is, because I was scouted through the practice, and that led me to every significant job that I have. But what I also love about Teaching Fellows is I was a special educator. You didn't get to pick. You put in your application, and they put you in a high needs area. And I had to first get over myself and that stigma of what it means to teach special education. I didn't actually know what that meant, but I knew I was like, hey, I'm willing to try it and give it a go. And I immediately, from the first class that I took, started to fall in love with the service aspect of it. I wanted kids to want to be in my class so much they wish they had an IEP and a disability. And I think that kind of played out in my work because it meant a lot to me. So Teaching Fellows, that fast track program for 2 years, you work, you get your degree, you grind, you learn from other teachers, and then you're able to move on in the field and have a successful career, because you start out making the first year teacher salary regardless. Like, there's no difference. And because I already had a master's degree, I was able to earn more from my very first year. So there are a lot of benefits involved in the grind, and it just taught me so much.
I wanted to land on the stigma. You talk about the stigma of special education or special education, right? Yeah, special education students. During high school, I actually had the chance to act as kind of like an assistant For special education students, we had this one period where I would go in every single day and help them with homework. We would play games, just really getting the students to socialize. And I cannot tell you how many people looked at me like, oh girl, like, are you sure? And even I have my own biases going into the program, but those walls or those thoughts or those preconceived notions that I had were completely torn down when I realized these people are students just like me. Like, they may learn a little bit different, but at the end of the day, we're all here to get an education, and we all have just one goal of just getting the work done. And they may do it a little bit different, or they may have to have some extra support, but we're really all the same. So tell me kind of how, as a teacher, you broke down those biases and those stigmas, and then for students who aren't in special education, how you kind of got them to realize that, hey, they're people as well.
I just want to echo that. Like, we all have biases. It's not something that I didn't have. In order to deal with that, I had to learn. I had to be open to learning. They taught us the history of special education services. And then I learned also just about the spectrum of special education services, because in some way, shape, or form, like you said, we all learn differently. We're all put into certain boxes. We may be looked over or not even looked at as a real person because of the way that we learn or want to learn or the things that we like, right? And so understanding what a learning disability was. Like, a learning disability literally means that you're not meeting grade level standards and we don't know why. For me, understanding, one, that I could fall into one of these categories easily. Like, I think that I have some type of spatial mathematical disability because I'm really clumsy. And I'm like, oh, that's why I run into things. Like, maybe I don't see shapes well, you know, like owning that and allowing myself to be a part of the group. That was part of it, you know, getting on their level. And then when I got into the classroom, being an advocate, a strong advocate for my students. So if they were being made fun of, I would shut it down right away. And not only in front of kids, like saying, that's not cool. Why did you say that? And you even mentioned like this when you spoke to extreme teachers, which I love, right? It doesn't need to be complicated. Like, that was me, period. I say that, you know, because sometimes kids are mean to each other, sometimes they're mean to me. But those short, clear sentences can help students and people, right? Teachers too. People reflect on their own biases and try to be better people and to be more an inclusive world, which is what we want. I had to deal with parents who were like, I don't want my kid in that classroom. What does that look like? You know, in my small class, which is the students with the most severe disabilities. But again, that changes from school to school. I've had parents come in and observe me teach, and they'll see like, wow, they're still learning content. Yes, right? We are still teaching. And that helped break down the stigma.
For sure. Yeah, it doesn't have to be some like grand action and grand statement like, hey, I don't think you should do this. It doesn't have to be that. I think if we just, because everybody, like, nobody's perfect. Everyone slips up. I slip up. As a teacher, as a special education teacher, I'm sure you've slipped up. And so we need to be checked sometimes. Sometimes asking that question, like, why did you say that? Then they'll be like, why did I say that? Okay, that wasn't cool. The Miss High School America organization has a national platform of BRAVE, which goes against bullying. And I think that's so amazing that you're working to break down those stigmas and also combat bullying. You mentioned like the parents. They would come in and be like, okay, now what are they doing? Or they even have their own stigmas of their children. Like, it all goes back to, yes, it all goes back to these stereotypes. But I really think with teachers like you and hopefully platforms like this and little reminders, we can start to break those things down and realize that we're all people and we're all humans. We're different, but we're all one race because we bleed the same blood. So I really, really love that and all that you mentioned.
It's our differences that make us amazing, right? The message that we're trying to teach in collaborative or inclusive is the term, the buzzword, inclusive classrooms. Classrooms that are racially diverse, classrooms that are socioeconomically diverse, classes that are learning style diverse. That's what actually opens your mind to things that you wouldn't think of before. If you're only talking to your own circle, it's the same like social media filter bubble, right? Like, you're only hearing the same voices, you're only going to hear the same voices. And we need to actually have those diverse and different voices, because that's what's made the most amazing inventions of the world. That's what actually is what democracy means and identifying and honoring and valuing. That's something that we talk about in education for equity. I not only have to see you as different, I have to value your difference, right? Like I have to value the fact that your accent is different than mine. I don't just tolerate it, I value it, because that says something unique about your people and your culture that I don't have, that you can teach me about.
I think that's so important, because when we talk about brave, building respect and a valuable environment, that's literally what it is. Like understanding those differences and valuing it, like the acronym says, and like you said as well, cherishing that and realizing that only makes the educational environment so much more special. So I want to get into your book. You are an author, which I think is so cool. I'm a writer myself, and I've always wanted to write a book, so big kudos to you. So talk about your book, Teach Like a Diamond, Hybrid Teaching for Today's Teacher. I'm sure that's very, very relevant in the society that we live in.
Writing this book, I'm in the editing phases. It'll be out, for sale within the month. This book to really inspire and motivate teachers to go through this hybrid learning experience. There was a cosmic shift that happened, a psychological, a physical, a metaphysical breaking that happened when schools closed because of the COVID-19 pandemic last spring. And I talk about being a homeless teacher. When I was the first few years of teaching, I was going from the couch to the classroom for a couple of months, teaching teachers and teaching kids nobody knew, right? Trying to make it. But that homeless experience changed me and broke me and put me under pressure for a reason, which is why I can shine the way that I do now. And in the same way, everyone became homeless when schools closed. Some kids thrived in school. That's where life made sense to them. They don't have great home environments. Even if they did, like I had a great home life, but I still loved school. And some students, even if they didn't completely love school, it's our normalcy, it's our routine. So that breakdown, that shift, that dramatic shift that happened, there was a hole left. And I knew that I had a hole in me because I was no longer in front of 100 and plus people a day. So all those people are now gone. And so what do you do in the absence of that? The first thing I started to do was to make videos. The playlist I have on YouTube is called Motivations for Teachers Through COVID. And there's 82 videos because I made one every single day. I made a song. I remixed the song every single day and sang it to teachers and put it on YouTube just to give us life. I talked about how we had to switch from Zoom. I talked about how the kids don't turn their cameras on. I talked about how we now have to figure out an online platform that we've never had to do before. I talked about all these things that we were dealing with, how we didn't have spring break was canceled last year because the state needed kids to stay indoors. So we had to teach through all the things. So I made these videos every single day just to give teachers hope, and they started to spread out through the community, and they're still there because we still need that. And so the book that I'm writing is basically, it stems from that because a parent actually said when I did this event, are you gonna write a book? Because she knew what I was doing. She knew what I was doing for kids every day. Like we're having one-on-one conferences, we're doing wake-up calls, we're doing lessons at night for kids who can't make it to school in the morning time. We're doing all these things. So I wanted to capture this experience and help teachers to go through it so that they'll come back another year. So the framework that I use is called Shine Bright. The S stands for show up and smile. The H stands for be humble, but not timid. The I stands for inspire. The N stands for never give up. The E stands for energy. The B stands for bounce back and fail forward. The R stands for real, recognize real. I stands for invest in you and them. The T stands for tenacity. And the E stands for execute or extremely execute. So each chapter lays out what the tenet means and gives us practical tools to figure out how to do this hybrid thing and do it well. Now more than ever, we need teachers who know what they're doing and who are willing to stick it out for our kids that need them. Our students are missing connection, they're missing education, they're missing that whole school experience. And even if we're back in person next year, it's still hybrid because it's different. Like we've gone through something that we'll never go back to again. And this hybrid experience has come as a pressure. And this pressure has come to create the diamond that is you. And so I call all teachers are diamonds. And that's even why I wear the crown. Every teacher should have a crown. All teachers are diamonds, and I want to teach teachers how to use that pressure and to use every cut that hybrid teaching has done to us and use it for our greater fire and our brilliance.
I am so impressed. Wow. That I mean, just everything you said. I'm over here like, maybe I need to be a teacher. I cannot say enough good things about you. And trust me, I will be one of the first to purchase that book, because I know as a college student, like this, and I've been in a virtual model for the past year. So I've seen the effect that virtual learning has had on professors who are just really energetic, and students show up and their cameras are off and it's like crickets. And I've seen the effect that school and virtual school has had on students who are just so eager to learn and so eager to participate. So just all the dynamics that you cover and the nuances that hybrid learning brings for teachers and students, like I think it's really going to help people. And like you said, students and teachers are looking for that connection. And that's one of the reasons I started this series, Connect Beyond, is because from 2020 on out, education will not look the same. It is hard work. And I know that there are educators out there willing to go the extra mile for their students. But I truly think that, like you say, teachers are diamonds and teachers are superheroes because they have the responsibility of preparing the next generation. So I mean, I'm sold. Tell people where they can access your book when it comes out.
My website is missdiamondemeralds.com. And if you go there, you can subscribe. You can sign up for the email list. You can also subscribe to my YouTube channel on that page as well. But if you look for Diamond Emerald on YouTube, I come up. But that's where you're going to get the information for the pre-orders, which will be starting soon. And then the website, I'm working with a designer this weekend to get it all ready because I don't want to put it out unless it's tight, right? But missdiamondemerald.com is where you can go to look at all my social media accounts and to stay connected and to get on my email list.
I'm just so grateful for our time together. It's been amazing meeting you. We definitely have to stay in touch. Hopefully one day we can meet each other in person.
That's like the new goal. It's like, I met so-and-so in real life. We're like, what? Like, that's crazy. I can't wait. It's going to be amazing.
Yes, for sure. This has been awesome. I can't say that enough. And I will definitely be one of the first to buy that book for sure.
And I'm doing the same for you when you do yours. Keep being amazing.
Yes. Thank you so much.